The millionaire CEO Ethan Cole had everything: money, power, and pride. But the day he collapsed in his office, he woke up to a face he thought he'd buried in his past: his ex-wife, now a full-fledged doctor. The same woman he once mocked, belittled, and crushed, was now the only person who could save his life. But the real shock wasn't her white coat, it was the secret child she had fought alone to raise. The rain fell in violent sheets over Manhattan, drumming on the tall glass windows of Cole Industries, a 50-story monument to wealth and ambition. Inside the top-floor office, Ethan Cole, the 40-year-old millionaire CEO, stood overlooking the city he believed he owned. The world bowed to him, or so he thought. Ethan was a man carved from discipline and arrogance. Tailored suits, controlled voice, cold eyes. A man who built an empire with ruthless precision and expected obedience from everyone around him. Everyone, including the woman he once married. Her name used to be Lila Hart, a bright, hopeful girl with dreams larger than the small town they grew up in. Dreams of becoming a doctor. Dreams Ethan once dismissed with a cruel smirk. But that was a lifetime ago. Or so he believed. That morning, Ethan felt an unusual tightness in his chest. Just he thought, nothing he couldn't handle. His assistant begged him to slow down, but Ethan waved her off. CEOs didn't get tired. CEOs didn't break. But bodies don't negotiate with pride. During a meeting with investors, Ethan's vision blurred. The room spun. His hands trembled. And then, blackness swallowed him whole. Guess. Shouting. Rushed footsteps. When he opened his eyes again, everything was white. The ceiling, the walls, the lights. The sterile smell of antiseptics filled his nostrils. And then he heard it. A voice he hadn't heard in 7 years. So familiar. Ethan, can you hear me? His heart didn't just skip, it stopped. It couldn't be. But when he turned his head, there she was. Dr. Lila Hart. His ex-wife. The woman he once crushed. The woman he once controlled. The woman he once told would never become a doctor. But now, the white coat, the stethoscope, the confidence in her posture, it all proved how wrong he had been. For the first time in years, Ethan Cole felt something unfamiliar. 7 years earlier, Lila Hart had been a medical student with fire in her eyes and hope in her soul. Ethan had loved her once, or at least he loved the version of her that stayed quiet, stayed home, stayed under his thumb. But when her classes took longer hours, when studying consumed her nights, when she dreamed of hospitals instead of being the perfect housewife, Ethan hardened. Lila, stop this nonsense, he used to say, loosening his tie with annoyance. You don't have what it takes to be a doctor. But Ethan, it's my dream. I've wanted this since you were a kid. Exactly. Childish dreams. You belong here with me. Not in some hospital running after sick people. His words weren't harsh, they were venom. He canceled her classes behind her back. He froze her tuition payments. He manipulated, argued, guilt-tripped, and belittled her. Until one day, she left. Pregnant. Heartbroken. Determined. Ethan never knew. Because she never told him. And now here she stood, Dr. Lila Hart. Stronger, wiser, radiant in ways success and suffering often sculpt. Ethan stared at her as if the world had tilted off its axis. Lila, what are you doing here? He whispered, voice hoarse. She didn't smile. Didn't flinch. Didn't look away. This is my hospital, she said simply. I'm your attending physician. The words stung deeper than any needle. You a doctor? A board-certified trauma physician, she corrected. And you, Ethan, are lucky you got here in time. His pride cracked like thin ice. He tried to sit up, but pain shot through his chest. Lila pressed a gentle hand against his shoulder. Professional, distant, steady. Don't move. Your heart condition is worse than you realize. Ethan swallowed, stunned by her confidence. This wasn't the Lila he once dismissed as weak. But while he studied her, he missed the moment her hand slightly trembled. She knew something Ethan didn't. A truth she'd kept buried for 7 years. Outside the room, through the narrow glass window, stood a young girl with curious eyes. A girl who looked shockingly like Ethan. Her name was Maya Hart. His daughter. But he didn't know that yet. Lila left the room briefly to update his chart. Ethan watched her go, memories rushing back like a dam bursting open. He remembered the day she begged him to support her dreams. "Ethan, I want to help people." "I didn't marry a doctor," he'd snapped. "I married someone who would support me. My life. My goals." He remembered her tears. The tired slump of her shoulders. The silence in their home. And then, the night she left with nothing but a suitcase. He convinced himself she'd return. She never did. Now she was Dr. Lila Hart. Rising star in the trauma unit. Respected. Admired. Everything he said she could never be. Ethan felt something unbearable twist inside him. Regret. A rare visitor in his heart. When Lila returned to the nurse's station, she found Maya waiting for her. "Mom," Maya whispered. "Is your patient okay?" Lila nodded tiredly. "He will be." Maya studied her mother's face for a moment. "You look sad." Lila forced a smile. "Just tired, sweetheart. Go home with Aunt Cynthia. I'll be off my shift soon." But as Maya turned to leave, an elderly nurse beside Lila whispered, "That girl looks just like that CO in room 405. Lila froze. Her secret was unraveling. Ethan tried to stop thinking about her, but Lila lived in every corner of his mind like a ghost refusing to fade. He could still smell her perfume, lavender and citrus. Still see the fire in her eyes the day she walked out. Still hear her last words. "One day, Ethan, you'll regret killing my dreams." He had laughed back then. But now he lay helpless on a hospital bed while she stood strong in a white coat. Life had a wicked sense of humor. His chest tightened again, not from pain this time, but from the memory of how cruel he'd been. He looked toward the hallway where she'd disappeared. She had a child. A little girl who called her mom. A pang hit him unexpectedly. Was the girl from a new marriage? Did Lila find someone better, someone kinder? The thought ate him alive. Later that evening, Lila re-entered his room with a tablet in hand. Her posture was professional, but Ethan saw the tension hiding beneath. "You had a cardiac arrhythmia," she explained. "Stress-induced. You've been ignoring your body, Ethan, the way you used to ignore everything that didn't fit your lifestyle." Her tone sharpened with the memory. Ethan flinched. "Lila, I'm sore." "Don't," she said quickly, cutting him off. "I'm here to treat you, not to revisit the past." But Ethan couldn't stop staring at her. "You became a doctor," he whispered, as if still trying to convince himself it was real. She nodded. "I did." "How?" His voice cracked, the question heavy with guilt. "How did you do it alone?" For the first time, Lila's eyes softened, not because she felt sympathy for him, but because the memory of her own journey washed over her. "Ethan, after I left, I worked 3 jobs. I studied at night. I slept only when I collapsed from exhaustion. I took exams with swollen feet and a bruised heart. I delivered babies before I had one of my own." Her breath trembled as she continued. "I scraped, I sacrificed, and I pushed because I refused to let your voice be the one that defined me. Every time life hit me, I remembered your words, 'You'll never make it.' And I made sure I proved you wrong every single day." Ethan closed his eyes, shame burning him from the inside out. "I was wrong about you," he whispered. "I was wrong about everything." Lila looked at him for a long moment. No forgiveness. No anger. Just a truth she had finally made peace with. "You were," she said simply. The next morning, Ethan woke to the sound of soft humming outside his door. It was the tune of an old lullaby, one Lila used to sing absent-mindedly while cooking. His chest tightened. And then he heard a small giggle. A child. A little female voice. "Mommy, wait for me." Ethan's heart skipped. "Mommy." He lifted his head slightly and saw the girl walking beside Lila. The same girl from yesterday. Her hair dark and thick, her eyes bright and curious. Something inside him froze. She looked like him. Same eyes. Same chin. Same serious expression, softened only by youth. A jolt shot through his veins. It wasn't possible. Lila would have told him. Wouldn't she? The girl stopped at the doorway and peeked in. Lila turned. Maya, she said gently, don't go into the patient's room. Maya. Her name was Maya. Maya looked at Ethan with wide eyes, eyes that mirrored his own. Sorry, Mommy, she whispered, stepping back. Mommy. The word clung to Ethan's chest like a weight. Maya, Ethan repeated softly under his breath. The name tasted strange. And familiar. Lila steered the girl away, unaware of the hurricane she had just unleashed in Ethan's heart. Later that afternoon, Ethan asked his nurse. The little girl earlier, Maya, is she Dr. Hart's daughter? The nurse nodded casually. Oh yes. Sweet kid. Right. Looks just like her mother, though some say she favors her father, whoever he was. Ethan's pulse spiked. Heat crawled up his neck. Do you know anything about her father? The nurse shrugged. No. Lila never talks about him. Raised the kid all on her own from what I've heard. Ethan swallowed hard. Raised the kid alone? A timeline formed in his mind. 7 years ago, Lila had left. Maya looked about 6, maybe 6.5. His breath caught. It lined up. Perfectly. A cold wave washed over him. Oh God. Was Maya this? Lila was reviewing Ethan's chart when he spoke quietly. Lila, we need to talk. She didn't look up. We are talking. No, he said firmly. I mean truly talk. About your daughter. Her hand froze. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. There's nothing to discuss, Lila said too quickly. Ethan sat up straighter, ignoring the pull in his chest. She looks like me. Lila's throat tightened. She has my eyes, Ethan continued. My smile. That's enough, Lila snapped, her voice trembling. Ethan stared at her. Is she mine? Silence. The kind that shakes worlds. Lila's eyes glistened, anger, hurt, exhaustion all swirling together. You forfeited that right when you crushed me, she whispered. When you refused to listen. When you made sure I'd never feel safe with you. Ethan's heart pounded painfully. Lila, answer me. Her lips trembled. And then, barely above a whisper. Just, Ethan. Maya is your daughter. The world tilted. The monitors beeped faster. Every breath he took felt like fire. His daughter. He had a daughter. And he had missed everything. Her first steps. Her first words. Her first day of school. Her entire life. Ethan's voice broke. I never knew. You weren't the man who deserved to know, Lila replied softly. Her words were a blade. Sharp, honest, devastating. Ethan bowed his head, crushed under the weight of himself. I want to make it right, he whispered. Lila looked at him with eyes that had seen too much pain to believe in easy redemption. You can't undo the past, Ethan. But I can try to fix the future. Lila exhaled shakily, turning away before he could see the emotions in her eyes. Because for the first time in years, she wasn't sure if she wanted to keep him out anymore. The next morning brought a strange stillness to Ethan's hospital room. He barely slept. The truth of Maya's existence wrapped around his chest tighter than any medical monitor. He had a daughter. A daughter he'd never held, never met, never even imagined. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, those curious eyes, that soft voice, the way she clung to Lila's hand. He felt something he hadn't felt in decades. He felt small. He felt human. That afternoon, fate, or perhaps Lila's exhaustion, brought Maya to his doorway again. Maya, sweetheart, stay beside me, Lila said, flipping through Ethan's medical chart. But Maya, bold in the innocent way only children could be, peeked into his room and offered him a shy smile. Hi, she said. Ethan's heart clenched. Hi, Maya. Lila froze at the sound of him speaking her daughter's name. Maya stepped inside before Lila could stop her. You're Mommy's patient, she said, walking closer. The one who fainted because you work too much. Lila shot her a look. Maya. Ethan chuckled weakly. She's not wrong. Maya tilted her head. Why do adults do that? Work until they break. Ethan swallowed the weight of the truth. Sometimes, he said softly, adults forget what matters. Maya blinked. Like family? His breath hitched. Lila looked away, her eyes glistening. Maya, oblivious to the emotional earthquake she had triggered, moved closer to Ethan's bedside. She studied him with open curiosity. "You look like someone," she said thoughtfully. Ethan's pulse jumped. "Who?" She smiled innocently. "Me." Lila stepped forward quickly, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Maya, that's enough. Let's give Mr. Cole some space." Maya waved at Ethan before leaving. "Bye, sir." "Goodbye," Ethan whispered, his voice cracking. When the girl disappeared down the hall, Ethan turned toward Lila. "I missed her entire life." Lila closed her eyes. "I did what I had to," she whispered. That night, Lila sat alone in the hospital chapel, dim lights, stained glass, and silence offering a moment of peace she desperately needed. She had known this day might come. Knew one day Ethan might see Maya. Might put the pieces together. Might demand what she never believed he deserved. Her hands shook as she clasped them together. She wasn't afraid of Ethan hurting her anymore. She was a doctor, a mother, a woman forged in fire. But she was terrified of him hurting Maya. Ethan had destroyed her once. He had crushed her dreams, her confidence, her belief in herself. What if he did the same to their daughter? She heard a soft creak behind her. Ethan approached, leaning heavily on the doorway. "You shouldn't be out of bed," she said automatically. He gave a tired smile. "Couldn't sleep." Lila looked away. "What do you want, Ethan?" He walked closer, slowly. "I want to say thank you." She froze. "For what?" she asked flatly. "For raising her. For giving her a life I never helped build." Lila's throat tightened. Ethan took a slow, painful breath. "And I want to be honest. I'm scared." Lila turned, genuinely surprised. "Ethan Cole, scared?" "For the first time in my life," he whispered, "I'm afraid I don't deserve her. Or you." Her heartbeat stumbled. Ethan lowered himself onto the pew beside her. "I was cruel," he confessed. "I wanted control, not love. I cared about power more than your dreams. I know what I did. And I'm not asking for forgiveness." He looked into her eyes, soft, broken, honest. "I'm asking for a chance." Lila's eyes filled with tears she didn't want him to see. "Ethan, you can't just walk back in and fix everything." "I know," he said. "But I want to be her father. Whatever that looks like. Whatever you allow." Lila stood abruptly, struggling to breathe. "I don't know if I trust you," she whispered. Ethan nodded slowly. "I figured as much." But before she could leave, he added softly, "I want to earn it." Her steps faltered. He wasn't demanding. He wasn't entitled. He wasn't controlling. He was begging. And that scared her more than his anger ever did. A week later, Ethan was discharged. Lila expected him to disappear back into his empire. Back into the world where he ruled and she didn't exist. But he didn't. The very next morning, Ethan showed up at the hospital, not as a CEO, not as a patient, but as a father trying to learn. He brought books. Parenting for Beginners. Understanding Your Child. How to Build Trust with a Child You've Never Met. Lila found him sitting in the lobby, reading with intense focus, scribbling notes like a first-year med student. She approached cautiously. "What are you doing here, Ethan?" He looked up and held the book awkwardly. I'm studying." "For what?" "For her," he said simply. Something warm pressed against Lila's ribs, and she didn't know whether to push it away or let it in. Later that afternoon, she introduced him to Maya, properly this time. Maya sat across from him in the hospital courtyard, swinging her feet. "You look nervous," she observed. "I am," Ethan admitted. She giggled. "Mommy says the truth is medicine for the heart." He smiled softly. "She's right. Do you like my mommy?" Maya asked suddenly. Ethan inhaled sharply. Lila's head snapped up. "Very much," he said quietly. Maya grinned. "Good. 'Cause I like you." Ethan nearly choked on his breath. Lila's eyes softened despite herself. This wasn't the man she once knew. This was someone new. Someone trying. Someone learning humility. And for the first time, Lila allowed a fragile hope to bloom. Just when life began to settle into this new, delicate balance, chaos erupted. News broke. A leaked article. Millionaire CEO Ethan Cole has secret child with ex-wife. Company investors demand answers. Lila's stomach dropped. Ethan's world shook. Maya's safety was suddenly at risk. Paparazzi swarmed the hospital. Reporters camped outside Lila's apartment. Investors flooded Ethan's inbox with angry messages and demands. Coal Industries stock plunged overnight. Ethan arrived at Lila's door with panic in his eyes. "Lila, I swear, I didn't tell anyone. I would never expose Maya." "I know," she said, voice trembling. "But someone else did." "Someone from the hospital?" Ethan asked. "No," Lila whispered. "Someone from your world." Ethan clenched his fists. His VP. His board. His competitors. Someone wanted to destroy him and didn't care if a child was collateral damage. For the first time since walking out of their marriage, Lila stepped closer to him. "Ethan, what do we do?" He swallowed hard and took her hands in his. "We protect our daughter," he said. "No matter what." And in that moment, standing together in fear and desperation, they were no longer enemies. They were parents. The next 48 hours hit harder than any storm Ethan had weathered in business. Investors were panicking. Reporters were savage. His board demanded an emergency meeting. Every headline twisted the story into something ugly. CEO hides secret family. Who is Dr. Lila Hart? Millionaire abandons child for years. Lila had nothing to do with this chaos, but she suffered the consequences most. Paparazzi chased her car. Reporters cornered her on her way to work. Online strangers dissected every piece of her life. And little Maya, her innocent world shattered under the noise. "Mama," Maya whispered one morning, her small face pale with fear, "why are those people shouting outside? Did I do something bad?" "No, baby," Lila whispered, holding her tight. "You did nothing wrong." But as she hugged her daughter, her eyes glistened with a truth that cut deep. Ethan's world was dangerous. And she had tried so hard to keep Maya away from it. Ethan arrived at Coal Industries to find the board seated around the long glass table, faces tight, angry, judgmental. His VP, Calvin Blake, smirked from the corner. The kind of smirk that revealed exactly who leaked the story. "Ethan," one board member barked, "this is a disaster. Investors are pulling out." "We need immediate damage control," another said. "A public statement. Something that distances the company from that woman." Ethan's jaw tightened. "That woman?" he echoed. "This. The doctor. The mother. Whatever she is to you." Ethan's temper flared, but he kept his voice steady. "She is my ex-wife," he said clearly, "and she is the mother of my child." Gasps shot around the table. "And if anyone in this room refers to her with disrespect again," Ethan added, cold as steel, "they can resign before security escorts them out." The board stilled. He continued, "We will not spin the story. We will not lie. We will not drag Lila or Maya into the press to save face. I take full responsibility." Calvin leaned back smugly. "Emotion is clouding your judgment, Ethan. This company needs stability, not scandals. Maybe it's time you step down." Ethan's eyes sharpened. "I built this company," he said, "and I will protect my family and my business." The room fell silent. For the first time, Ethan realized he didn't care about losing power. He cared about losing them. He stood up, closing his laptop. Meeting adjourned. He walked out before anyone could argue. Calvin's smirk faded into a glare. The war had begun. That evening, Lila found Ethan waiting outside the hospital emergency entrance. He looked exhausted, mentally, physically, spiritually. But he smiled when he saw her. "Lila, can we talk?" She crossed her arms, both tired and protective. "What's left to say? My daughter is scared. I can't take her to school. I can barely walk outside without cameras." "I know," Ethan said softly. "And I'm sorry. I'm handling it." "You're not," she whispered. "You can't stop the media." "No," he admitted. "But I can take the blame. I can shield you." Lila shook her head. "This isn't about blame. This is about Maya." Ethan's voice dropped. That's why I'm here. She sighed, rubbing her forehead. Ethan, your world is chaos. Mine is supposed to keep her safe. And I want to be part of that, he said earnestly. Not the chaos, the safety. I want to protect her. Lila hesitated. What if you can't? She whispered. Ethan stepped closer, but not too close. He had learned that boundaries mattered. The day of the board presentation arrived with a strange mixture of anxiety and quiet courage. Ethan Cole, once the untouchable millionaire CEO, sat alone in his glass office overlooking the city. The skyline usually made him feel powerful. Today, it felt like a reminder of the emptiness of success without people to share it with. His mind drifted to Lila. Her voice, her strength, her unwavering composure when she told him the truth he had feared for years. Carson, you have a daughter. He still felt his heart drop whenever he replayed those words. And then there was Maya, the bright-eyed, curly-haired girl who looked at him as though she instinctively knew he was her father even before anyone told her. Nothing had hit him harder than the moment Luna smiled up at him and said, "Mommy says you're a good man," deep down. That sentence pierced the stone walls he had spent years building around his heart. He had been many things. A perfectionist. A leader. A visionary CEO. But a good man? He wasn't sure anymore. When the time came, the board filed into the conference room. Ethan delivered the presentation flawlessly, but his mind was elsewhere, floating between regret, realization, and a longing he didn't know how to name. After the meeting, the board members congratulated him and left. Ethan remained seated at the long conference table, staring at nothing. He whispered into the empty room, "I don't want to lose them. Not again. Not this time." 2 hours later, Ethan stood in the hospital's family lounge, waiting to see Maya. He had no plan, only a heart full of truth. She walked in, surprised to see him. "Ethan? Are you all right?" she asked, her doctor's tone blending with the softness of a woman who once loved him deeply. "For the first time in years, no," he said. "But I want to be." Maya slowly sat across from him. He inhaled shakily. "I owe you more apologies than I can ever speak. For dismissing your dreams. For calling your ambition a distraction. For thinking a woman should stay small to make a man feel big. Lila, I was wrong. So wrong." Her eyes softened but remained guarded. "We've been through this." "No," he said gently. "You heard my regret. But you never heard my truth." Lila frowned slightly. The truth?" Ethan leaned forward. His voice was low, trembling with honesty. "I didn't just lose a wife when our marriage ended. I lost the only person who ever challenged me to be better. The only woman who ever looked at me like I was human, not a CEO, not a wallet, not a name. You saw me, and I pushed you away because I feared you'd see who I really was." He swallowed. "And now I see who you truly are. A brilliant doctor. A loving mother. A woman who never gave up on herself, even when I did." Silence filled the room, thick, emotional, trembling. Lila finally whispered, "Ethan, I didn't want you to fail. I just wanted you to grow." He exhaled sharply, his voice cracking. "I want to grow now. I want to be part of Luna's life. If you'll let me. If she'll let me." Lila felt a heat rise behind her eyes. "Maya has always wanted a father," she said softly. "But I never wanted to force your presence into her life." Ethan's voice shook. "Please, don't deny me the chance to try." Later that evening, Maya burst into the lounge, running toward Lila, but then she halted when she saw Ethan. Her tiny hands twisted nervously. Ethan knelt slowly. "Hey, Maya," he said softly. She looked up with those gentle almond eyes that mirrored Lila's. Are you my dad for real?" she asked. Ethan's throat tightened. "Yes. If you want me to be." She stepped closer. "Will you show up? Always?" Ethan's voice cracked. "I will never miss another moment of your life. Ever." Maya's lips curled into a small smile. "Then, can I hug you?" That was all it took. Ethan opened his arms, and Maya ran into them, an emotional collision that shattered years of regret and rebuilt a future in a single embrace. Lila watched, tears streaming down her cheeks, her heart folding into 1,000 shades of healing. A week later, Ethan returned to the same hospital, but this time not for a medical emergency. He waited outside Lila's office. When she stepped out, she paused. Ethan. He held a small box, not a ring, but a symbolic piece of his past. I resigned, he said quietly. From Hale Enterprises. Maya gasped. What? I built a kingdom that cost me everything. I don't want that life anymore. I want to start new. Not as a CEO. Not as a man obsessed with power. A father. And maybe, one day, someone worthy of your heart again. Lila felt her breath tremble. Ethan, this is a big step. It's the only step that makes sense, he said. Because the life I want is the one I lost. The one I'm begging for another chance to build. Maya, holding Lila's hand, looked up. Mommy, can he come to dinner tonight? Lila exhaled deeply, emotion swirling in her gaze. Yes, she whispered. He can. Ethan closed his eyes, overwhelmed by gratitude. Lila added softly, but Ethan, this time we rebuild slowly. With honesty. With patience. He nodded. With love, he said. She smiled, small but real. With love. The three of them, Ethan, Lila, and little Maya, exit the hospital together for the first time. Ethan walks on one side, Lila on the other, Maya in the middle holding both their hands. It is not a perfect family. Not yet. But it is a beginning, raw, hopeful, and beautifully human. As they step into the golden evening light, Ethan whispers, "Thank you for letting me earn my place." Lila looks at him. "We'll write this new chapter together." The door closes behind them.